Is there a way out of hell? This is also a question that's asked a lot. Of course, I've done long and detailed programs about this. Actually, if you search on YouTube, you'll definitely come across my talks on this topic. I am a student of the Quran. I try to bring what I learned from the Quran into my life. At this point, first of all, people who are able to die as Muslims, by Allah's permission, will not go to hell because a person either dies as a believer or as a disbeliever. Those who have died as believers, if they have sins, and we all do, brother, Allah the Almighty says that He can forgive all sins. Why do we overlook Allah the Almighty's attribute of forgiveness? Why do we ignore it? Here, Surah Az-Zumar, verse 53. The verse is clear. It says that to despair of Allah's mercy is disbelief, it is deviance. Prophet. Yaqub, Surah Yusuf, verse 87. In the verse and hurts. Ibrahim also says that those who despair of Allah's mercy are perverts. Surah Al-Hijr, 56. In the verse. Alright. Surah An-Nisa, 48 and 116. In these verses, our Lord says that He can forgive all sins except for shirk, if He wills, and what is meant by shirk there is dying upon shirk. If a person does not die as a disbeliever, does not die upon shirk, and is able to die as a believer. In fact, in Surah Al-Imran, Allah the Almighty says, so do not die except as Muslims. Whatever you do, die as Muslims. So do not die except as Muslims. Surah Al-Imran, verse 101, 102. A similar expression appears in the verse. In Surah Al-Baqarah, regarding the advice of Prophet Jacob to his sons, it is also mentioned, be careful, die as Muslims. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 132, in the verse, so what happens when there are sins? One, Allah the Almighty can forgive. 2, there is no absolute rule that the punishment for sins must be suffered in hell. The word azab means to take away the pleasure. Azbin means sweet. Azabi, yuazabu, tahazab all mean to take away the pleasure. A person's state after death, even the manner of their death, their state after dying, the fear they will experience when being resurrected, the distress they will feel when confronted with their book of deeds, the troubles they will face when they see what is written in their book of deeds, and the difficulties they will go through while their deeds are being weighed. The distress experienced while waiting for Allah the Almighty's judgment, and even those who, in a wrath, are made to look toward the side of the people of hell and witness the disaster there. These hardships experienced during these stages are a form of torment. But as the Quran states clearly and explicitly, those who enter hell can never come out again. And God willing, our Lord will not cast those who die as believers, having faith, into hell. But this should not be a reason for complacency. In the Holy Quran it says, beware, do not let that great deceiver, Satan, mislead you about Allah. One must live a life that Allah can forgive. There is no point in shamelessly going before Allah, or in those who have no grounds for forgiveness preparing themselves for such a free pass, for such an empty hope. Wallah yagaranakam billahogarer. This phrase appears in several places. In the Holy Quran, in Surah Fatir and elsewhere. It also appears in Surah Luqman and in Surah Hadid. One should not try to deceive with Allah. There are statements like, well, there must be some punishment for it, and so on. As I said, this punishment can also be carried out in ways other than hell. There are many verses in the Quran that show hell is eternal. I don't even see the need to read them out. Anyone who has read the Quran even once knows these. However, the idea or perception that we'll just burn for a few days and then get out. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 80. I want you to read this verse along with this one. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 80, and verse 24 of Surah Al-Imran. I want you to read these verses. I sincerely ask you. On this Ramadan evening, right now, open up and read Al-Baqarah 80 and Al-Imran 24. See for yourself the statement. We'll burn for a few days and then get out. Whose statement is this? And how does Allah Almighty respond to such a claim? I kindly ask you to see it for yourself, to see it directly from the verses.